All right, guys, we're going to move over into TLDR. We just like to summarize the movie for anyone who has not seen it. Although, if you have not seen 500 Days of Summer, what are you doing? What are you doing? Warning, there are spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen this movie, you can stream it on Amazon Prime. Take it away, Mercedes.
Yes, so this movie tells a 500-day story about love and heartbreak in a non-linear format. So I'm going to be giving the TLDR in a linear way just to make it easier to follow their relationship.
Good plan.
So Tom Hansen is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he first meets Summer Finn, played by Zoe Deschanel, on her first day as the new assistant at the greeting card company where he works. And he believes she's the one. He just thinks that she's the perfect girl because they have similar tastes in music and a lot of other similar quirks. His crush builds, and he learns she doesn't believe in love. After a night of karaoke, it's revealed to Summer that he likes her and they remain friends, but soon after, she kisses him at work. Summer tells Tom up front that she doesn't want a relationship and wants to keep things casual. Tom agrees. The two start spending more time together and having fun, but Tom's lingering desire to be Summer's boyfriend never really goes away. Summer can't promise him how she'll feel in the future. She focuses more on if they're having fun. Soon after that, though, Summer ends their relationship and Tom is in shock. Summer changes jobs and Tom spends months in misery. Months later, the two find themselves as guests at a coworker's wedding and spend the evening catching up. Tom believes this is his chance to win her back, but when he's invited to a party at Summer's place, his expectations are destroyed by the reality that Summer is engaged. He's devastated, but after harsh advice from his sister, Tom begins to see and realize the incompatibilities he had with Summer. His outlook changes, and he suddenly is motivated to pursue architecture again. And one day he runs into a now married Summer at the park. She explains how he was right about love, just not right about her. The two part ways, finally at peace with one another. And on day 500, while waiting for a job interview, Tom meets Autumn, played by Minka Kelly, and asks her out. Thus begins a new love story for Tom.
This is a 2009 film written by Scott Neustadter and Michael H. Weber, who also wrote The Disaster Artist, The Spectacular Now, and The Fault in Our Stars, like literally some of the best movies.
Yeah.
It's directed by Mark Webb, who also directed Gifted and The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. And I just have a really quick funny story about that. So,
Ooh,
the movie Gifted stars Chris Evans,
Chris
right?
Evans.
And Jenny Slate. I think that's where
Yeah.
they met and like dated.
Yes.
My
I love
favorite.
that.
Yeah.
I love that couple.
Love that couple. Um, I have actually never cried so hard while flying 37,000 feet in the air than like watching that movie. I watched it on the plane, and
I watched it on a plane too.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
kind of embarrassed because I had a window seat, so there are two people sitting next to me, and I am over here sobbing for like the whole movie. I'm over here just like sniffling and wiping my tears, and it was so embarrassing, but also like that movies are I don't know, sometimes I don't know if being that high up in that altitude makes you have, like, your emotions just kinda thin, but
Yeah.
I feel like I cry a lot on planes. One of my favorite
Same.
movies is How to Train Your Dragon, and I watched it on a plane, and I started crying. I've seen it a million times, but I started crying, and I was like, "I think my emotions just get all wonky when I'm
Yeah.
so high up."
I, like, notoriously choose the worst movies to watch on planes that are, like, extra sad and about, like, illness and, like, all these things, and I'm like, "Why did I do this to myself?" Because now I'm just sitting here sobbing. People think I'm crazy next to them. Have to keep going to the bathroom to, like,
Yeah,
make sure I look human. Oh my god, it's a mess.
exactly. You know what is crazy though? So at the beginning of this movie, there's a line that's like, all none of the characters are real except for, and this isn't supposed to be impersonating anyone except for you, Jenny Beckman, bitch. Like what that
Yeah.
message on the very beginning. Jenny Beckman is actually a real girl who dumped one of the screenwriters, and Summer is based on her, and the movie is about their relationship. So this is an actual, and I think that's why so many relate to it because it is a real story that actually happens to people, but it happens specifically to one of the screenwriters, and I thought that was
It's
great.
so interesting because
Mhm,
Newstatter said that it's, like, 75% accurate to, like, his own heartbreak with
mhm,
Jenny Beckman. So called.
mhm.
But he also said that when she read the screenplay, she related most to Tom,
Hmm.
which I think is just really telling to like how skewed our own point of views can be and like
Uh,
how one relationship can't really be told from one point of view, you know? Like
yeah,
there are two people experiencing this.
that's so interesting because it feels like I mean, these characters are so different in terms of, like, what they're experiencing, what they're feeling. So for a Summer to feel like Tom, it almost seems like it's not possible because of how different their emotions were in this film, right?
I think it really is like we're really seeing Tom's point of view. And on many occasions online and in interviews, Joseph Gordon-Levitt has had to defend Summer against these Tom supporters who frame her as this villain. And there's many reasons why people misunderstand this movie and really defend Tom's actions through and through. But I mean, if the leading man is telling you to reevaluate, maybe we all should, you know? Like, I know so many people who are just like, Summer's such a bitch, I can't watch that movie, and I'm like, "Whoa, oh my god." Like, they're both very flawed here, and there's a lot of miscommunication going around all around.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited to get into it.
I am too. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is just so unproblematic. Like, he's just such I have so much to say about him. I'm gonna save it for later. But just know, my love for JGL runs deep. It runs real deep.
He's so just, like, charming that you wanna trust him and you wanna believe him even when he's being, like, a dick.
Guys, we're in Time Capsule Mercedes, and I just like to recall where we were when we watched this movie, which I definitely saw this in theater, and I think that's the first time I freaking remembered that. Like, I
Yay.
definitely saw this in theater. This was 2009 was a year that I was obsessed with writing down movie trailers, I've said in, like, previous episodes. I had no idea until this time that I watched it that took place in LA. I can't even believe that, my mind is blown. The way that they shot it, I've never seen a filmmaker make LA not feel so Hollywood and
So
boisterous and
beautiful.
flashy. It's so subtle and understated, and I feel like this movie's version of LA is a type of LA I'd love to live in. If the listeners don't know, I live in LA, but, like, I just feel like watching this movie, I'm like, "That's not where I live." It's so
You
different.
gotta go downtown and look up at the buildings.
See, that's the thing too, is I noticed this all took place downtown. I'm like, "Downtown's
Yeah.
a rough area." Like, it's a rough area. There's a lot of unhoused people, and it's not always the safest, and so a lot of I mean, it's definitely been made up and it looks a lot nicer, but it's a rough area.
Mhm. Well,
Where
the
were you?
first time I watched this, I was 13 or 14. I can't really remember because I know I all I know is I waited so long to for this to be on DVD. I remember I would watch the trailer all the time, but it didn't release in theaters in Albuquerque. So I had to wait till it was on DVD and then I watched it so many times. Oh my god. I remember like classically, I watched this Valentine's Day and Paper Heart when I had surgery when I was 14 at the end of 8th grade, like, on loop for 2 weeks, just, like, in recovery, and
Oh,
just so I've seen it so many times, and the soundtrack had an insane impact on me. I loved it. It changed my whole, like, indie music teen
yeah.
vibe forever, and I just wanted to emulate Summer's entire style. For me,
Mhm.
this movie, like, feels like Tumblr, like, scrolling on Tumblr and, like, walking around Urban Outfitters as a teen, like, that like, I could, like, smell Urban Outfitters when I'm watching this movie.
You know, Mercedes, I feel like the reason Um, I relate to Tom the most, which is funny because we have briefly talked about our thoughts of on this movie before this episode, and I didn't realize I haven't seen this movie since like 2017 because the last time I watched it with a group of friends. We all went to Atlanta, and they were all taking Summer's side, but I was taking Tom's side, and that was before I was in a relationship. And like I feel like even though my first and only relationship wasn't that long, it did change my perspective on this film a bit, but I feel like the reason I relate to Tom so much was because I feel like I've never been properly given a chance to, like, show how great, like, of a partner I can be, and I'm saying all of this because I just watched this movie, I recalled who I had a crush on in 2009,
Ooh.
and I've mentioned him in our Valentine's Day episode, which all of you guys should go and listen to. I briefly mentioned my crush that year, which is this guy named Will Story, but I didn't go into details. I thought I'd finally tell the story of Will Story, and I feel like I've always wanted to say that too.
Yes.
um,
I'm ready.
so yeah, Will was really good friends with my friend Taylor, and we went to school together all 4 years. I swear I never even knew that he existed until like the end of my junior year slash like beginning of senior year, which is crazy. Never even knew his name, nothing. But he was just like really nice, unlike the other guys in my grade. I just had such, I always talk about how I was severely bullied in high school and just had a really hard time even just walking down the halls. And then all the guys were just so mean to me. And Will was not. Like, he was super artsy, he kept to himself, he was really quirky, like, he reminds me of, like, a mixture of Summer and Tom almost. Um, but I spent all of senior year, like, getting the scoop on him from my friend Taylor. Like, I would see them together, like, sitting together at lunch or walking down the halls, and then I'd call Taylor after school and be like, "Taylor, what did he say today?" Like, "What's his favorite color? What's his favorite" like, stuff like that. So I, like, took me forever, like, actually talk to him, but I felt like I knew everything about him from Taylor. And then 2, my best friend, Anne, she lived, like, a few houses down from him, and she lived in, like, this weird neighborhood where you had to, like, circle around, like, there are 2 streets, you can either go directly on her street or you can go down another street and circle around, and
Okay.
the street that he lived on, I would always drive down his street to loop around to go to her house just so I could,
Aw.
like, drive past his house, and I was at her house a lot. So I did that a lot. Um and I just freaking loved him. I really just loved him. I just thought he was so interesting. I would park my car next to his every day. This was like junior year. And towards the end of the year, I asked him to prom by putting like signs on both of our cars.
Oh my
So it
god.
just like since I parked next to him, I had like on my car like will you and on his go to prom with me or something. And it was like obvious that it was me because it was my car.
Yeah.
And he said no.
Mm.
He said no, and I ended up going with my actually, my junior year, I did not have a date to prom, which was a bit heartbreaking, but, it's just, like, it's so interesting because I always wonder, like, what would have been with if Will and I were ever a thing. Um, my I saw a picture of him recently, I think he, like, works at Zumiez or something, like, the corporate side of
Oh, okay. I was like, "Huh, alright."
I know, right? I think he does, like, graphic design for them or something, which is really
Okay.
cool, but yeah, I always wonder about Will's story. He's, like, the one that got away from me.
Aw. Those some of those crushes have such a lasting impact. Like, they
Mm,
are so memorable.
yeah, they really are. I just loved him. What about you, Mercedes? Who did you have a crush on?
Oh my god. I had a crush on I've definitely talked about him before. He was 2 years older than me, and he went to
Guy
my
on the
school,
plane.
and yes, yes. I sat behind him on a plane once. Well, he sat in front of me. This was a Southwest flight, so let me remind you, you pick your own seats. So, that was a choice he made, and I was like, "Oh my god." Yeah, he was perfect. He was so tall and just he played soccer and he was quiet and, like, shy, and I was like, "You're everything to me. I know nothing about you and you're perfect." But yeah, I was 13 when this movie came out, and it came out in the summer after 7th grade. And I think this was the summer that I started wearing contacts, which was major for me. Picture me with like a full-on glasses tan over my nose for like months because I still like because I just like it would not go away. So I just had this line there with my contacts, and it was just so funny and full brace face. And every middle school summer, I remember I would play soccer and play tennis. Those were, like, the things I was definitely doing, and I spent most of my time with my friend Serena, and we would do, like, tennis lesson, and then we'd, like, go to the mall and, like, binge Secret Life of the American Teenager, and we were either at her house or my house, and, like, we were inseparable every summer, and she didn't go to my school, so then we'd get to meet up with, like, public school kids because I went to private school, so that was always so exciting, like, going to the mall and meeting up with, like, boys who I didn't know. I was like, "Oh my god."
You went to private school, I did not know that. Did you go to private school
Yes.
your whole life or just high school?
No,
Or
just middle school and high school.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, it was a very small school.
Love it. All right, guys, it's time for the Rom-Com Hall of Fame. But of course, this is gonna be my favorite part. We have to roast this movie. First, it is. We
I
got a we
yeah.
got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to talk about.
This is a lot.
This is a lot. Stay tuned. Stay with us, listeners. We're gonna get through this. Okay, tell me your hot takes.
Okay, my first one is I hate Tom's friend Mackenzie. He is so annoying. He calls Summer a lesbian when she says she's independent. He describes women as skanks and bitches, and I think that's just so annoying and like so 2009. I hate it. And I think he just makes Tom worse. He enables him and his behavior, and I just don't trust him. Anytime he's on screen, I'm like, this guy, he's just like he's one of those dudes, he's one of those that's like, hashtag nice guys finish last, whatever, like,
Mhm.
just the worst type of man. Ugh.
Mhm. I hear you. I hear you. I do agree. Like there was, yeah. I feel like this movie, we have to address pretty privilege, which is something we weren't talking about then, right?
Yeah.
But if we look at the character of Summer, that's all her entire life is. So the definition of privilege is the special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group, right?
Mhm.
And that group are people who look very good, like people who are attractive, like highly attractive, and they are attractive by a majority of society. And there was an entire montage of Summer getting things like discounts on apartments or like warranting a lot of stares on the bus or just like the spike in song sales when she like quoted it in her yearbook. And I just feel like all of that is just because she's pretty. And the reason I have such a like I don't know. The reason I'm so passionate about pretty privilege is because we cannot be doing that anymore. Like it's the term this is so lame, but the term beauty is in the eye of the beholder is so true. And it's just like as someone who has never benefited from pretty privilege, I'm just roasting this aspect of the film because we as a society cannot do that anymore. We just cannot. If I work hard and I if I work hard, I deserve the same. I mean, I guess I have a hard time kind of fully explaining myself because I don't wanna, like, say anything too controversial, but just, like, if you work hard and you're a good person and you try and all of these things, like, everyone should be treated equally. It just
Yeah.
bothers me because, like, things like getting discounts on apartments at, like, 25% below average, like, come on. We all deserve those things.
Pretty privilege is definitely real. I mean, and honestly, it mainly centers on around like people's proximity to thinness and whiteness
Mm,
and their proximity to Western beauty standards,
mhm.
and which is just a mess because that's not the majority of the world.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because
Mm,
it's so out of everyone's control, or it feels out of everyone's control. And I also, like I don't know if you feel this way, but I've never trusted the narrator of this movie, so I've never known if the story of Summer is accurate.
hmm. I hmm. Tell me more. Tell me
Okay,
more.
so yeah, I have a lot to say about this. Like, this film is entirely from the perspective of Tom, and the narrator speaks in this very all knowing manner, but it's not an omniscient narrator. He only tells Tom's experiences and Tom's point of view. So I always assumed that this backstory of Summer at the beginning is more of like the assumption of like the fantasy of what Summer is and who she grew up to be.
Mm, mm,
Because even, like, when Summer's about to speak up and open up in different parts, like, when she's talking about her dreams and she's like, "Oh, I never said that before," that's when we hear the voiceover, like, completely just, like, crowds her like, talks over her, and, like, we don't hear it anymore. So, like, anytime we were finally gonna get her POV, it's skewed by this voice, and I think this really starts with the beginning credits with, like, the Jenny Beckman "bitch" line, where it offers a lot of validating to the viewers who want to vilify Summer. So you're already on this pathway toward Summer as the villain analysis, and it's just such a skewed point of view, and she's actually honest from the start. I mean, she does, like a lot of her actions don't meet up with what she says, and I know that. But you are drawn into this perspective, but and like I said before, even the fact that like Joseph Gordon-Levitt says to try to put yourself in Summer's shoes, I don't think she's blameless, but I also don't think she deserves the blame she receives, and a lot of that has to do with this so-called objective narrator, but is actually so
mhm.
subjective for Tom.
Mhm. I think too, a lot of people, especially in this dating app culture where we are constantly swiping and constantly looking for the next thing, a lot of people can relate to Tom of just like desiring something, but not something I really liked that he said, is talking about how when they got into a fight after he stood up for her at the bar and he punched that
Mhm.
guy. Summer they go back to her apartment, and Summer's like, "Why did you do that? We're just friends." And he's like, "Bullshit, we're not just friends. Like, friends don't do these things together. And you're not the only one who gets a say in it. I get a say too, and I say we're a couple." And the reason I think that line is so powerful is because it's so true. Like, obviously, an entire relationship cannot be dictated by just one person, but who do you listen to in that situation when you both want different things? I think a lot of people can relate to Tom of desiring to have something, but because, um the other person doesn't necessarily want what you want, you compromise or you
Yeah.
relent on a lot of things that you want, but, like, deep down, you know exactly what it is that you want. Like, you wanna be with this person, you wanna be a couple, you wanna be exclusive. And so I think there is almost a like, that's the point of vilifying Summer is because more people can relate to Tom than Summer. I'm not saying that it's okay, but that's kind of where I feel like the writing was leaning more towards.
Yeah, I think it's just so tricky because I don't know, like if I hear that somebody wants like has different goals for a relationship than I do, then I'm not going to put them through like whatever. You know, like you need to put your ego aside. You're not going to change someone's point of view. You're not going to change someone's emotions toward you or how they feel about what they want out of a relationship. Those aren't things that you can actively change for somebody else.
Mhm.
And he thinks he can. He thinks that like, "Oh, we have the same music taste, like, we, like, are quirky in the same way, we're indie in the same way, like, we have fun," like, those are all reasons. Where it's like even in the scene where she tells him about her dream and she's like, "Oh, I never said that before," like, that's all, like, just pillow talk. And sometimes you do say stuff you've never said before because you're just hanging out and, like, there's nothing else to say anyway. And so, like, you never even know if it's that deep or if it's just Tom, like, congratulating himself for getting something out of Summer.
Yeah, exactly. And this is just going off of what you said. This is a PSA to all men. Just because a girl likes the same crap that you do does not mean she's the one. I feel like so
Yes.
many men are like this and they don't even take the time or even bother getting to know the person actually. They're just like, "Oh, like okay, this was very prevalent with my ex. Like I just feel like he wanted me to just like the things that he liked, never
Yeah.
asked me a single question about what it is that I liked, never showed any interest in what I liked, asked me questions about nothing. He was just like, "Hey, you need to watch this anime. You need to listen to this song. You need to do this." It was all oriented towards him. And that was so annoying. So I just encourage everyone actually get to know
Mhm.
the person because then it's like, okay, you're not actually the person I'm looking for when you get over the fact that they like all the same stuff that you do. And then
Yes.
yeah.
No,
Go
just,
ahead.
like, stop putting people on a pedestal because it's so dangerous to your own well-being too, and he's just projecting this fantasy onto Summer, and that's so naive and immature to think that that's, like, any way to, like, be in love,
Mhm,
and I don't know, it's just, like, this so-called compatibility. And it's just it's so surface level, and it's frustrating. Like, he sees this beautiful girl and is immediately like, "Oh my god, I love her style. I love, like, all these things." And he's so focused on idolizing her rather than actually getting to know her that he dismisses all their disagreements by changing it to something that they agree on. Like, even in the bar before the punch, when he's talking crap about that girl across the bar who's, like, very, like, pop LA, like, very
mhm,
Paris LA dressed, and, like, she's like, I don't know, maybe she likes it. Or even in the record store when he's just like, "I can't believe there's people who don't like this music or, like, don't know who this band is." She was like, "I didn't." And it's like, yeah,
yeah.
of course, like, he would hate me. He would hate me. Tom would detest me. And like, I don't know, just, like, you can't just, like, count up the likes you have with somebody and call that
Mhm,
compatibility, because
mhm,
that just
exactly.
leads you to, like, such a skewed view
Mhm.
of what your relationship is.
100%. I think the last roast that I have for this movie, surprisingly, um, that whole montage where Tom is, like, putting in absolutely 0 effort to try to get Summer's attention, right? Like, he
Yeah.
turns up his Smith song at the
Oh,
office.
so
He's actually, like,
annoying.
first of all, the fact that you think, like, no effort as all is effort, ugh. I heard this great quote on TikTok, that said, "Listen, I know that you like me, but liking me is not enough to keep me around or build with me."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you need to actually do something, and also too, he immediately when he thought that he got rejected by her, he immediately called her a bitch, and to me, that's just so frightening because there's so many stories of women losing their lives because they rejected a man,
literally. Exactly.
and it's just like that he gave me in that moment, he gave me that energy where he's like, he did absolutely nothing, didn't even
Yeah,
talk to her. He just asked how her weekend was, she was like, "Oh, it was good," and he took that as like, "Oh my god, she's not into me, blah, blah," and then it's just like this narrative that men make up in their heads, like, "I got rejected," when actually
yeah.
you didn't say anything, and then all of a sudden, a woman's dead. That's like,
Exactly. You know, yes,
extremely like
I completely agree with you. It's, like,
yeah.
such incel culture, and it leads to
Mm,
violence in a lot of different ways. Or
yeah,
you have these, like, acts of revenge on a woman who didn't even want you in the first place. Like, oh my god, it's just it's disgusting, and,
yeah.
yeah. Oh my
It
god, that
it
bugs me
it
so
is
much.
it is disgusting, but it also leads to, like, my favorite quote of the movie because I love
Ooh.
when I know, my favorite quote is when they're sitting in the diner at the beginning, and Summer's like, "We've been, like, Sid and Nancy for months." He's like, "Summer, Sid stabbed Nancy 7 times with a kitchen knife. I mean, we've had our disagreements, but I'd hardly say I'm Sid Vicious." She's like, "No, I'm Sid. Oh, so I'm Nancy." Like,
Yes, I
I
do love that line. Also, did you know that Zooey Deschanel and Joseph Gordon-Levitt have, like, done a whole, like, skit of Sid and Nancy? It's just on YouTube. It's from this, like, era. I think it was maybe, like, a year before this, because 'cause they've been
Huh,
friends for so long, and they just did it for fun.
interesting. That's so I'll
Yeah,
have to go check it out.
yeah. My favorite quote is from Summer, and it's, "I just don't feel comfortable being anyone's girlfriend. I don't actually feel comfortable being anyone's anything, you know?"
Mm.
And I find it very relatable for this point in my life right now, and that's all I'll say.
I do too. I gotta give props to Rachel and his sister because I really liked what she said. I know you think she was the one, but I don't. I think you're only remembering the good stuff. Next time you look back, I really think that you should look again. And I like that because I heard have you seen that prompt on I talk about TikTok a lot because that's, like, literally all I do is TikTok.
Yeah.
So, have you seen that prompt that's like, "What's a scam that's become so normalized we don't even realize it's a
Yes,
scam anymore?"
I have.
Okay, so someone oh, was it that one? Okay, someone was talking about he said the quote, how it oh, no, 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 it was oh, sorry, I completely messed this up. It was, what is a really deep quote from an unlikely source or something like
Ooh,
that,
okay.
and he was talking this guy was talking about this quote, like, how it is how it ends is how it was. That's the quote. How it ends is how it was. And basically you can kind of allocate that to every aspect of your life. So they were talking about it in a work environment of like, okay, how you end your day is how your entire day is. But it can be the same in relationships, right? How it ends is how your entire relationship is. And for me, that's very true because I feel like my relationship ended badly. And so to me, like my entire relationship was bad. And you don't remember the good things. And I feel like it's interesting that Tom is almost having the opposite effect, where like he's only remembering the good things and not remembering the bad things.
Yeah.
And I wonder what causes that, like what stems that.
I I honestly I don't know either. I think it's just the fact that he was just so consumed by his own ego that he couldn't
Mhm.
see the reality in front of him.
Mhm.
And I mean, that happens to the best of us too, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I it's so interesting to me that, like, literally his wisest confidant is his, like, 12-year-old sister in this whole
Yep.
movie. I'm like, "You have these grown men best friends, and they don't give you any good advice? Are you serious? Matthew Gray
Yep.
Gubler, step up." Like,
Yeah.
I need more.
So with that being said, Mercedes, would you swipe left on this movie or would you swipe right?
I'm swiping right.
Yeah, yeah, right?
Despite Despite all I have to say, I love this movie. It's so beautifully shot. Despite I think I'm more frustrated by the audience than like the reactions from there and like the
Mhm,
analysis of this movie than the actual movie. I think the expectations versus reality scene is so special and so memorable, and it captures just that feeling so well in a new way that I hadn't seen in like 2000s cinema before. And for
mhm,
2009 especially, this movie was just such a different take on the genre, and it counters the traditional rom-com formula, and it uses nonlinear storytelling, so it definitely has more of that, like, indie arty feel. And
mhm,
I just wish Summer was given a lot more grace from viewers who villainize her, and the Tom apologists are the ones who have ruined the movie, like I said. And I just think, like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel have come to the defense of Summer so many times, and it's just, like, please listen to them because they have a lot of good points. And I mean,
mhm,
you're like, these people are gonna sit there and ignore the, like, points that are being made by the leads, like, come on,
mhm.
no?
I hear that, I hear that. I'm also swiping right, if not for anything else, for this soundtrack, Mercedes.
Oh,
It is
yes.
so perfect. They have the temper trap, they have Regina Spektor, and I love the film noir that they add and, like, the
Yeah.
unique editing choices, and just God, okay, so this is my JGL spiel. I love everything about Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He is exactly who you should aspire to be in Hollywood because he is, for lack of a he is a child actor, like, he has been doing
Yeah.
this since he was a
A
kid.
long time.
He is never in the media, he's never problematic, he didn't have, like, an era where he, like, went crazy and bought monkeys and, like, crashed cars and things like that. Like, he has just been a very down to earth and, like, charming and such a centered person. Like, he's
Yeah.
married, he's been married, he has a kid, he's not with the drama, and he's just, like, such a lovely one of the best people working in Hollywood, and he's just such a lovely person. And he was one of the first celebrities I actually met when I moved here to Los Angeles.
Aw.
'Cause I did a he had a hit record event, so he used to do, that, organization Hit Record,
Yeah.
and he just invited everyone out, and it was so cool, he was just, like, down, like, we were it was just a big room, and we all had to dress up as, like, Victorian era people, and he was just there with the camera and just, like, we were just making films, and we were just filming, and it was just such a beautiful experience, but it was so cool. He's wonderful. He's shorter than me, but,
He is so special, and I think, like, it does, like, prove just how sweet he is in real life because you want to root for him here, even
Mhm.
though, like, I physically can't. I feel like it pains me to be like, I can't believe I don't agree with Joseph Gordon-Levitt because you do, like, your heart, like, melts for him.
Mhm. He's so cute. He does this little, like, side smile thing where he, like his eyes get squinty and he just, like, releases, like, a
I l
just a small
yes.
little
He has
I
the
love it.
best, like, squishy face, like, just like oh gosh, yeah, he's precious.
Love it. I love it. He's great. Alright, guys, it is time for couples therapy. Mercedes and I just like to give advice for the couples on how they can improve their relationship, which I feel like we also have a lot here. So
Yes.
I feel like just going off of what we've been talking about, Tom definitely needs to gain some confidence because you can tell he's deeply insecure about himself and about his life. Even the
Mhm.
way he responds to Summer in the beginning when he tells her that like he studied architecture, but he's been working at this greeting card company for so long because he couldn't find a job. He just like never chased his dreams and he didn't think like very highly of himself. And so I feel like he had so much time and energy to direct towards Summer and put her on a pedestal and idolize her because he didn't have any of that love and adoration for himself. So he's like, let me pour it out onto this girl. And it
Yeah.
became like almost toxic. So it's so funny because oh God, I just I'm so sorry. I quote TikTok so much. It's like embarrassing.
I mean, you are a
It's like
TikToker.
I spend so much time on TikTok just for the audience listening. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, it's funny because on TikTok, I heard that if a man ever says something along the lines of "I can't believe someone like you would go out with someone like me," it's like a major red flag, and you should
Yeah.
run. You should run as fast as you can. It's not endearing. It's not trying. No, it is toxic, and I just feel like that's the vibe that Tom gave me. Is like he couldn't believe
Mhm.
someone like Summer would be with him. Um, I'll let you talk 'cause I just feel like I don't know how I feel about Summer, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I understand her perspective on one side. I see that she stated her feelings. She was very intentional about her desires, and she was never quiet about it. She was like, "Listen, I don't believe in love. Why would you get married? It ends in divorce. I'm not looking for anything serious. I just wanna be friends." She said that multiple times, but at the end of the day, exactly what you said, what she was saying, her actions did not match her words. Um, and it just seemed like very selfish and controlling in a way. But I'm curious your thoughts.
I think for Summer, I do think there's a mix up between what she says and how she acts.
Mhm,
Plus, her feelings are never brought up after that initial "I wanna keep it casual" conversation. We don't get an update from her.
mhm,
And Tom isn't honest with her from the beginning and also assumes that she's on the same page as him, and even though she never voices that ever. So these 2 have a lot of communication issues. Like, the fact that you can't just, like, have I don't know, just, like, a mature conversation of being like, "Okay, well, let's have, like, an updated how are we feeling right now? Are you still in the same place you are? Am I still in the same mindset?" And also be honest with yourself. I know she's not blameless because she states what she wants, that she wants something casual at the beginning.
mhm,
But she also's not, like, the ruiner of this relationship either, you know? There's 2 sides here. And I think Summer really just needs to reflect on what her version of casual dating is and how her actions are being translated to not only herself, but also who she's dating.
mm,
And I
yeah,
think also on Tom's side, like, he's really insecure and selfish in the way that he thinks that what he says goes too, you know? These are 2 people who are very adamant on their stances about love and relationships. And he projects all those fantasies and ideals onto women, and Summer doesn't exist for him. And you can't convince someone to love you. And
Mm,
if he were honest with himself and Summer from the beginning, I'm sure this whole relationship would not have lasted nearly as long as it did, and it wouldn't have nearly as big of an impact on him. But he's just so like flooded with his own ego that he is just like he has blurred vision to it all. And
yeah,
she's an entire person beyond his ideal version in his head. And that's so important to just like remind yourself that like he he's far more interested in idolizing her and idolizing this version of her that he's made up instead of actually really getting to know her. Like I said
yeah.
before, like the narrator always drowns out her vulnerable moments, and he never wants to hear her differing opinions and instead just focusing on like whatever they can relate on. And if he paid attention to anything besides himself for 2 seconds, then he'd realize that this isn't love and this isn't what he thinks it is. And he just needs to remember that you can't grow and evolve if you're dwelling and romanticizing the past either. Because he spends a
Mm,
lot of that time not getting over the relationship and instead angry and just like in this miserable mood, down on his luck, when really like he doesn't reflect on any of his own actions and doesn't reflect on like how he felt this whole time. Like he was pretty anxious this entire situation because he didn't know where he stood.
yeah.
And Summer was adamant on only doing something while it felt fun and while she was happy doing it.
Mm.
So it's just they're in such different different places, and I don't know. If somebody has a different idea of what they want out of a relationship than you, then don't try to mold yourself to become what they need or what they want. If
Mm.
that's not who you're supposed to be, then it's not gonna work out anyway, and you're not gonna change somebody.
Mercedes, can I just make an observation? I feel like
Yeah.
you really, like, more than anyone I know, have the right tools to be an excellent partner.
Oh my god, that's so
I
nice.
I feel like a lot of your insight and your perspective on relationships is what's gonna make you a really great person to be in a relationship with. Like, you are a total catch.
Aw.
I just want
Kendra, I feel the same about you. Oh, I cannot wait to see you in love.
Ugh, I can't wait. September, hopefully.
Oh my god, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the updates.
Like, what do you think these characters' love languages are?
Okay, I think Tom needs quality time and oh no, I think he gives quality time and he needs words of affirmation.
Mhm,
But I also think he has gift giving in there too because he makes all the mixes for her,
mhm.
which I don't know. I think I would have been excited about in high school, but I don't know if now if I like got a mix from a guy, I'd be like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe once.
Yeah.
But and then for Summer, I think it's kind of tricky because we don't really see like who she truly is. We get Tom's point of view, but from what we know, I think she gives physical touch and needs quality time.
Mhm. I agree with you, but I wanna ask you, do you think having the love language words of affirmation stems from insecurity?
No.
Mm,
I think it definitely can. But I
mhm,
think some people just need like the verbal assurance on some level, and not even in like some type of weird validation way, just in the way of like uplifting somebody else and being like, "Oh, here's a little boost for you." I don't know.
yeah.
I think of it too in like different relationships, like how much I like clung to like what teachers said about me and like how they
Mhm,
praised me. Like that's a
mhm,
whole other like thing that like boosted me. So in that I definitely for me at least like growing up it was like rooted in insecurity, and then now I'm like,
mhm.
okay, I'm way more comfortable with
Yeah,
myself. So
I love that. Okay, so we're talking about if this couple lasts for 5 years. I'm gonna be completely honest, I'm surprised they lasted over 200 days. Like, what?
Dude, yeah, I kept counting up, like, the days, and I was like, "What is this in months?" Because I obviously
Yeah.
can't do math. I am Googling on the side, and I
What
was
is it about?
shocked. They lasted, like, 9.5 months.
What?
Yes, because
That's a
they
long
lasted for,
time.
like, 200 over 200 days, almost 300.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna do divide by 30. Mhm. Over 200 days. Yeah, like 6, 7-ish months.
No, they lasted, like, 240 or 290 or
240?
something.
Okay, hold on. Okay,
One of
240
those.
divided by 30 is 8. So, okay, yeah, we'll say between 7
That's
to 9
so
months.
long.
That is a long time.
I am also like, if you're in a situation for 8 months and you are distraught that this person is not your official, like, significant other with a label, then please end it. Like, this is
Yeah.
not gonna go anywhere good.
That to me, that was like, I don't know, that felt like there could have been more communication there. To let it drag
For
on for
real.
that long, that's a long
Yes.
time to just be like, "What are we? Like, what?"
It's oh my god. There's a scene in MTV The Hills where Audrina's like, "Me and Justin Bobby have been talking again for, like, 4 months. He wants to take it really slow, so, like, no girlfriend, boyfriend, just, like, dating." And Lowe's like, "How long have you been dating? 4 months? He should probably be your boyfriend by now." And I always
Yeah.
have that in my head every time I hear of these, and I'm like, "Come on."
I
Like,
gotta
if
rewatch
that's not what
those.
you want, I understand, but seriously.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel the same way. This is a breakup story. Like, obviously, they're not lasting. And also, like, they flourish much more apart and they learned a lot from
Mhm.
each other. And this relationship definitely had an impact on them and their growth as people. And I think that's
Yeah,
all you can really, like, want from an ended relationship anyway.
I agree. I 100% agree. Alright, guys, it's time for Heartthrob. We're gonna talk about who we would introduce to our friends and family. Tell me, Mercedes, who you taking home with you?
So, since Summer Finn was one of my style icons of my early teen years, I have to say her. She was the
Mm.
epitome of a 2009 cool girl, and I just wanted to be her in middle school. And I wore so many cardigans trying to emulate her. I clearly Zoe Deschanel has had an impact on me. Like I still I go through my phases of having bangs often. And but also, like, Matthew Gray Gubler, when he has that monologue where he describes his perfect girl and then says his girlfriend is better because she's real, I melt. I'm like, "Okay, that's the sweetest thing anyone says in this movie."
Yeah. Matthew Gray Gubler, I can't ever say his name. He is in every Drake Doremus movie, and I love that. So Drake Doremus is one of my favorite actors. Wow, he's one of my favorite directors. He directed Like Crazy. He did Newness. Oh, what's that one with Shailene Woodley, Jamie Dornan, and Sebastian Stan. Anyways, Endings, Beginnings, that's it. He just
Ooh,
has such an authentic and raw take on relationships, and I don't watch Matthew in anything else, but I watch him in every single Drake Doremus movie, so
oh my gosh,
I
I know multiple people who write Matthew Gray Gubler fan fiction, so
yeah.
he has a big following.
So I am introducing my friends to Rachel. I think she is just so wise and only
Yes.
speaks truth and facts. And she's also really good at listening and great at giving advice. And she just seems really insightful and empathetic. And I could use more friends like that with those qualities. So
Yeah.
um I like Rachel. Rachel's great.
Mhm.
Inside from Mary Smooch Ghost. Who would you marry? Who would you smooch? And who would you ghost? We have Tom, Mackenzie, and Paul.
Oh my god, okay, so I think I'd marry Paul, Matthew Gray Gubler.
Uh,
Um I would smooch Tom. I would wanna marry Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but just Tom is a whole other thing. I mean,
yeah.
I guess I'd marry Tom at the end of the movie,
Okay.
once he cleans his act up a little bit. Then I'd
Mhm.
smooch Paul, and then I'd ghost Mackenzie because we all know I'm a Mackenzie hater.
Yes. Okay. I would marry Tom, and the reason I would marry Tom is because we are on the same page in terms of what we want. Like, we both wanna be in a relationship, we both wanna be exclusive, we both believe in true love. I think we align on the things that we want, and so I feel like I would marry Tom. I would this is hard. Smooch Paul, but not with that haircut that he has.
Dude, I
I'm
know,
not lo
it's so
I'm not
scraggly.
I'm not loving it. And then I'd go with Mackenzie, you're 100% right. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Before we wrap it up, we always love to bring in a pop culture moment. And I cannot believe for the life of me that Zoe Deschanel is 42 years old. Like,
It was
to me,
crazy.
she's just, I don't know, she's just always been around my whole life. And to think
Yeah,
that she's in her 40s and like has two kids, and I just can't, I don't know. It's hard for me to see people growing up because I don't feel like I'm growing up. I feel like I've
same.
been the exact same person since I was a kid. So when other people are moving forward in their life, it's really hard for me to kind of like understand that to an extent. I don't know.
I totally agree, especially with Zoe. Like, I am a diehard New Girl fan, and that's all
Mhm.
about like being in your like early 30s. And like to see that I'm in my mid to late 20s now, I'm approaching that and I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost New Girl age. Like, how did this happen? Like, we're supposed to be to the you're New Girl age, Zoe, like not me. And that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And one of my pop culture facts, you've already brought it up and we've both raved about it, but it's this soundtrack still hits. Like,
Mhm,
please, if you have not listened to the 500 Days of Summer soundtrack, just like play it, take a stroll, listen to
mhm.
the Temper Trap. Oh my God. I love Regina Spektor, all of them. Like, even honestly, the Smiths. I'm Mexican American. I have to love the Smiths.
Love it. Okay, so I mentioned this in our episode, 10 Things I Hate About You, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt speaking French. It's like is like a whole fantasy. I just like hot American celebrities speaking French, so like Bradley Cooper and Timothy Chalamet. Like when they speak French in interviews, freaking love it. Freaking love it.
Oh
It's
my
my
God.
favorite.
Yeah, I love when Timo speaks French. I'm like, wow.
Mhm, right? It's
Okay. So this movie has been described as the like first like millennial Facebook movie. I saw that as one of the critics described it as like the millennial romance that defined like the Facebook generation, which is
Mhm.
pretty crazy sentence to hear. And a lot of this movie has a lot of karaoke, which I don't think of as like a millennial thing or like a generational thing because I
Mhm.
love karaoke and whatever, but I do have a question for you. What song would
Yes.
you sing at karaoke in front of your crush?
Okay. I have a handful of go-to karaoke songs, and
Same.
they're both like okay, so my number one go-to karaoke song is "Nothing But a G Thing" by Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre.
Perfect.
My
Perfect.
my second one is, "Check Yourself" by Ice Cube,
Oh my god. Can't wait. This is amazing.
and then my third one is "What a Man" by Salt and Pepper.
Oh my god.
I'm, like,
Oh, I
old school
love
with
them.
it. I'm old
I
school
love
with
it.
it. What are your go-to songs?
My favorite one to sing is Last Dance by Donna Summer. Because I like to do the entire Selena Quintanilla disco medley for all 7 minutes and 43 seconds, but a lot of karaoke places don't have that, so I have to break up the songs and do each song individually. So Last Dance by Donna Summer is, like, my go-to. And
Give us
then,
a taste,
like
Mercedes.
no, no, no. No, 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 no. That's it for the karaoke room. But I also love to do Any Man of Mine, Shania Twain. And
Mm,
then I love a good dolly. I've been wanting to do this song by Linda Ronstadt, long, long time, but I haven't gotten the chance yet. And it's a sad one, so I don't think I'd sing that in front of a crush. I always have
yeah,
this fantasy of somebody falling in love with me while I'm singing karaoke. Like that's
yeah.
like my dream. And not because I'm good, not because I'm a good singer, just because they're like, she is experiencing the like most joy she ever will, like in this moment. Like this is like pure happiness here.
I love
So
it.
yeah.
Listeners, we want to hear from you. What is your go-to karaoke song? What do you think about 500 Days of Summer? Are you Team Tom? Are you Team Summer? Have you had your own experiences like this in a relationship? Make sure to let us know your thoughts by sliding to our DM at Meet Cute. Again, I'm Kendra. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Kenta
Yes, and I'm Mercedes. You can find me at MercedesGV11 on Twitter, IG, and TikTok. And if you're looking for new rom-coms, follow Meet Cute wherever you listen to podcasts and follow Meet Cute on socials everywhere. Bye, everybody.
We'll see you next week.